This video will be a continuation of Crown Corporation Part 1, my video covering Serco, the British multinational company. Apparently Serco is also behind illegal migration. I'm not going to talk a lot in this video, but I'm just going to play some clips from other videos about Serco. I'm tired, but I still do want to get info out as it comes so I don't forget it or don't lose sight of it. A commenter on the Part 1 video said this, which I can't see this comment in the video, but I do see it in YouTube Studio for some reason. But it's from Bonio999, and they said, their former CEO, speaking of Serco, is Rupert Soames, and he's Winston Churchill's grandchild, and is related to the Scouts founder, Baden-Powell, on his father's side. His daughter Daisy is goddaughter of Diana. I noticed King Charles has 33 godchildren. I remember someone showing me that the bishops shown in the color footage of the Queen's coronation in 1953, when the crown is being placed on her head, have the Jesuits' IHS monogram on their vestments. So that's the end of his comment, or their comment. So now let's look at Rupert Soames. Rupert Soames is Order of the British Empire. He is the grandson of Sir Winston Churchill, the Druid. Winston Churchill, the Druid, who is lionized historically in their Nephilim War, the one that so many theatrics are about, plays, books, movies, statues, etc. I've covered Churchill a lot on this channel, and he's on my thumbnail because I think showing him with the peace sign there when he was a military officer, Prime Minister of the Beast System during World War II, and a Druid, which is a Luciferian high priest, shows exactly the irony of our scripted reality that isn't recent but has a long history. Winston Churchill is Most Noble Order of the Garter, Order of Merit, Order of Companions of Honor, Territorial Decoration, Deputy Lieutenant Crown Appointment, Fellowship of the Royal Society, and Royal Academy. A highly decorated witch. I hope you see that. But back to Rupert Soames. His mother is Mary Soames, who's also Most Notable or Noble Order of the Garter, Most Excellent Order of the British Empire, and Fellowship of the Royal Society. Here's all her decorations there. So that's his mother, Mary Churchill. So he's the grandson on her side. Here are all of her appointments. She was involved in the Red Cross, which is probably why her teeth look all bloodstained. Here's their heraldry. So Rupert Soames is also nephew of Defense Secretary Duncan Sandys and his wife Diana Churchill, and is a great-nephew of the founders of the Scout movement, 1st Baron Baden-Powell. His wife is Camilla Dunn, daughter of Sir Thomas Dunn, who is also a Lord and Order of the Garter and Royal Victorian Order, a dynastic knighthood. And Rupert's daughter Daisy is Diana, Princess of Wales' daughter, or was, or is, who really knows. Soames was educated at Oxford, and where he was president of the Oxford Union. It says he worked at a DJ at the London nightclub Annabelle's, and that is an aristocratic nightclub named for Lady Annabel Vane Tempest Stewart. So Rupert Soames is a witch, and probably a vampire, but definitely a witch, or the son of a witch and a vampire, with that Order of the Garter mother, who was a Red Crossie. So now I'm just going to stop talking and play some of the other clips about Serco and their Crown Corporation.
This is the Serco Group. They run all 7 immigration detention centres in Australia, but they do lots more. In fact, they're probably the biggest company you've never heard of. Governments all around the world outsource to Serco. They run half of London's traffic lights, all of Dublin's, and in Ontario, Canada, they test you for your driver's licence. Serco are also the largest air traffic controllers in the world. They've got 54 towers in the US And they control Baghdad's air traffic. They even maintain the RAF squadron the Queen flies on. All over the planet, Serco are moving people, from metros in Dubai to buses in Adelaide. And they're good at stopping people from moving too. Serco will soon be the largest operator of private prisons in the UK, and they're very efficient at it. In one prison, they increase capacity by 20%, simply by putting beds in the toilets. In another Serco prison, a 14-year-old hanged himself after being assaulted by Serco guards, the UK's youngest ever death in custody. But don't think Serco aren't good with kids. In Bradford, they run all the state schools in the district. Serco is the model of a modern multinational, and that's why they're the right company to keep us safe. They've been running the UK's ballistic missile defence system ever since it was outsourced 40 years ago. In fact, they look after Britain's entire nuclear arsenal, from creation to decommissioning. But wait, there's more. Serco are so good at running things, they even run time itself. That's right, Serco have the contract for setting Greenwich Mean Time. And Serco just keep getting bigger. Since 1994, they've grown by 1,200%. How have they been so successful? CEO Chris Hyman puts his success with Serco down to listening to God. Now, you might think things like nuclear arsenals and border protection are best handled by the government, but that's not a problem for Serco because about 85% of their workforce are ex-public servants, so they have all the training and connections necessary to handle big government contracts. In Australia, Serco have a presence on every military base, run every immigration detention centre, 2 prisons, cross-country trains like the Indian Pacific and the GAN, and they're bidding on more contracts right now, including one to run prisons across New South Wales. So, even if you don't know their name, chances are you're caught in their web. Serco, bringing service to life.
Now, on this channel, we've spoken a lot about illegal migration recently, especially as we've had record numbers coming from France, especially. These are obviously people who are already now safe. They're in mainland Europe, and but they want to come to this country, to Britain. And the French authorities are essentially, instead of stopping them at the French borders, they are escorting them to the British border and leaving them with the border force, the UK border force. Now, in this video, we're going to talk about a very specific and particular company, a massive corporation behind all this operation. So let's talk about Serco. Serco is one of the most, biggest company that most people have never heard of. This is how Serco has always been labeled, as they are more involved in your everyday life that you can even imagine. And in this video, we're going to talk about this. So Serco, at this moment, they are working with the government to manage this operation with the illegal migration. So they are bringing in all these people instead of turning back the boats. They are sending them to all these 4-star, 5-star hotels across the country. They're booking out the whole hotel for a year or so. So these people could obviously stay there whilst we still have homeless people on the streets of this country. Yeah. Now, to find out more about Serco, obviously it's a massive PLC. They say that they're a provider of public services. The company's segments are UK central government, which offers services for sectors including defence, justice and immigration, and transport delivered to the United Kingdom government and devolved authorities. And so obviously they have the massive kind of jobs that they've been obviously getting contracted by the government. The reason that we said they are the most, the biggest yet unknown company is because they work with governments essentially. So, and a lot of people thought that it's essentially just UK based. They have bases in North America and various other continents as well. And the CEO of Serco is Soames. This is the brother of Nicholas Soames, who's obviously the grandchild of Winston Churchill, who's a Tory. And not that there's any connection to that. It's just it's just coincidence. But these people are powerful people, and there is also a lot of other people behind them, the shareholders and everyone on the board. And there's some news that's coming out in terms of the management, that the changes that they might see. But as we said, one of the biggest things is essentially what's been happening with Nigel Farage and how he has exposed Serco and their role when it comes to illegal migration. Now, I'm going to tell you more about what Serco actually does in case you don't know. Let's watch this clip and you find out more about Serco.
Serco does everything from training helicopter pilots and national security personnel to managing naval bases, transporting people and munitions, to providing logistical support, to maintaining military aircraft. They also manage the UK atomic weapons establishment with Lockheed Martin and Jacobs. They maintain the Trident system and developing materials for it. They also run the anti-ballistic missile warning system, nuclear waste management, nuclear safety program, and they inspect nuclear plants. Their space and security specialists support Skynet 5, the UK military's secure satellite communications network, and they're involved at RAF Menwith Hill, the secretive signals intelligence gathering centre that's thought to be involved in GCHQ's Tempora Dragnet project. So it could be that they're helping the government collect data on you. Outside of defence, they manage prisons, they run electronic tagging systems, prisoner transportation, they run immigration centres, community payback programmes. Serco are involved in refuse and recycling, street cleaning, vehicle maintenance. They have occupational health services, out-of-hour health services, prison health services and more. They designed, built and maintain Boris bikes for Transport for London. They have 70 leisure facilities, scientific research facilities, transport facilities, welfare programmes designed to get people back into work, and they set Greenwich Mean Time. And they're the world's largest air traffic controller.
Yeah, that's everything you see around you probably has Serco involved in it. And apart from what's happening with migration, because that's one area that they manage, there's another area that they're taking care of. Test and trace for the NHS. Yes, this whole corrupt and weird system that hasn't even worked from day one. And but by the way, one thing about Serco is that, of course, they're a private company. They get contracted, and that's absolutely fine. It's called capitalism, but at the same time, a lot of these operations that they have run in the past have failed badly. I mean, this is the latest one. You can see with their test and trace with the NHS how that's going. In the past, they've failed with a number of clinics. They've failed when it comes to a number of defence contracts, and also with various projects that they did in London. So this is the Serco that we're dealing with, and obviously they do what they're told by politicians and governments because they give out these contracts. But where is the scrutiny in that sense? Because if we are unhappy with our politicians or our governments, usually, technically speaking, at every election, we have the right to hire or fire our politicians. We could get rid of them. But two areas that you can't touch is civil service, bureaucrats, and the contractors, essentially, all these private companies that are involved with the government. And you, as the person who's supposed to be the boss of these people, because you're the taxpayer and you're the electorate, you vote and you pay your taxes, you don't really have any say. And this is exactly why when Nigel Farage exposed what's happened with Serco recently with the hotels and illegal migration, it was a big piece of news. But the mainstream media, again, they're slowly talking about what's happening in Dover because there's pressure now on Priti Patel and the Home Office. But in reality, again, they're not really talking about Serco's involvement. Now, one piece of news that's come out recently, last couple of days, is actually the revenue and profit growth that Serco has seen. So the Serco Group, which runs the waste services in Sandwell and leisure centres across Staffordshire, saw both revenue and profits grow in the first 6 months of 2020. Now, the outsourcing group, which has its head office in Hampshire in Hook, saw revenue growing by 24% to £1.82 billion, with its underlying trading profit increasing by 53% to £77.6 million. Now, revenue was given a 9% boost by the purchase of the naval systems business unit. So that's one thing. And then there also obviously the order. You can see the numbers yourself. The group is now obviously planning to pay taxes deferred by the government by the end of the year, and is not planning to apply for re-employment incentives. Now, that's one area that we're talking about. But when it comes to Serco, they have managed to sign a 10-year contract to take care of illegal migration in the UK. They've also signed a £45 million contract to take care of test and trace, NHS test and trace, which isn't working. One story is that obviously we've seen, I did a video on test and trace about a month ago, a few weeks ago, when we had a whistleblower telling us that someone who works there essentially, that they're not actually making any phone calls, any contacts, they're just sitting there, all this staff, and not partly, I mean, so they did have contacts to call, but most of the time you have to rely on people and also businesses, especially hospitality, restaurants and bars, to cooperate. But that's not happening. I went to central London the last couple of days in pubs and bars. A lot of these places don't even actually do the test and trace. Some of them that do it aren't really actually following the guidelines anyway. So this whole thing is not going to work. £45 million contracts gone out. You got 10-year contract for illegal migration. Who's in charge? Who, when it comes to scrutiny, who do we speak to see if these sort of things are working or not? So this is a massive national scandal. As I said, Serco is the biggest company that most people have never heard of, and they are involved with your everyday life. As you saw in that video, the ram Boris bikes, they do the Greenwich Mean Time, everything that you think, waste management. So well done to them. They're making a lot of money, but it's affecting our lives. And so this is, I just wanted to make this video today to talk to you about Serco and what's actually happening with this whole chaotic situation. If you enjoy the content, make sure to subscribe to the channel.
So he's talking about the UK, and that's an older video, but let's look at the US, because it's not just in the UK. Let's look about the US.
Have you guys ever heard of a company called Serco? Well, it might be the biggest company that you have never heard of. Everyone knows about the private prison industry, the transportation industry, and government agencies. But what if I told you that there was just one company that oversaw almost every facet of all of these sectors? Yep, that's Serco, the mother of all multinational corporations. Serco is a $1.5 billion services company based in Hook, North Hampshire in the United Kingdom, whose motto is bringing services to life. So, what the hell does that actually mean? Well, according to their website, Serco improves the quality and efficiency of essential services that matter to millions of people around the world. The work we do for national and local governments involves us with the most important areas of public service, including health, education, transport, science, and defense. Now, I know it still sounds very vague about what they actually do, but more importantly is how many industries Serco actually oversees across the entire planet. Since governments from around the world outsource to Serco, the massive corporation has its tentacles in 16 countries worldwide. They cash in on detention. Serco runs 7 immigration centers and has a presence on every military base in Australia. They're also the largest operator of private prisons in the UK. Serco also directs airplanes. They are the largest air traffic controllers in the world, with 54 towers in the US alone. The company also supplies air traffic control in Iraq and the United Arab Emirates. Serco also moves people on the ground, from Scotland ferries to Dubai metros. But the company not only manages public transport everywhere, it also operates speed track cameras and creates the software for monitoring traffic across London. But don't worry, Serco's looking out for the kids, guys. They currently have contracts to run every state school in Bradford, England. But they haven't forgotten about Grandma and Grandpa. They're privatizing community centers too. If you haven't figured it out yet, Serco is essentially the Swiss Army knife of corporations. Serco plays doctor too. Private hospitals are a big industry under the umbrella company. And Serco has started to acquire hospitals in Australia and England. Serco is so unbelievably powerful that they even control time. Yep, Serco has friends in such high places that they have been contracted to set Greenwich Mean Time, or GMT. Now here's where it gets really interesting. Do you think that things like running border patrol and protecting nuclear arsenals should be run by a government body or a private multinational? Well, I'm sure you can guess what I'm getting at next. Serco does both. Not only do they look over the country's entire nuclear arsenal, they also run the UK's ballistic missile defense system. In fact, their primary purpose of being stationed here in the United States is to supply defense and intelligence services across the nation. Check out their promo video for the U.S. government.
For the Department of Homeland Security, we manage over 62 million active records, helping to keep our nation secure.
Think of it as an integrated system that helps the right person make the right decision at the right time. For the intelligence community, we provide planning, training, program support, and project execution. And the rest, it's classified.
The rest is classified? Guys, we already think you're shady. Is it really necessary to tell us that you have even more secrets? But thanks for the disclaimer. So what branches of the government does Serco specifically provide services to? Well, the U.S. Army, U.S. Federal Aviation Administration, the Ministry of Ontario, U.S. Navy, U.S. Air Force, U.S. Department of Homeland Security, U.S. Marine Corps, Federal Retirement Thrift Investment Board, U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, U.S. Department of State, the intelligence community. Whew, let me catch my breath. I just wanted to establish the extent of their reach. But wait, there's more. Serco's so passionately committed to the U.S. that they're also working with the government to fight cyber terrorism, and they remain passionately committed to the American government's mission. Check it out.
I like to say, we don't have to look hard to find the best and brightest. They find us.
We are passionate about the future of our nation, and we embrace our government's mission as our mission.
We are.
We are.
We are.
We are.
We are.
Your mission, our passion.
We are the company that runs the world. But don't worry, they're passionate about swallowing up the world industry by industry, government by government. Since 1994, they've grown by over 1,200%, and they continue to acquire more contracts and services every day. So how does it happen that a multinational corporation can run things such as the time and the safeguarding of nuclear weapons? Well, about 85% of Serco's employees are also ex-public servants, so they have the know-how and networking to keep that revolving door going. So why don't we know more about Serco? Well, that's just the problem, is that this corporation has way too much power and way too much control. There's no doubt that we live in a corporatocracy. The corporate coup d'etat has already taken over. The question is, how are we going to fight it?
So, she's talking about corporatocracy, but, you know, it's really a Nephilimtocracy? Made up a new word. Thanks for listening.